liberty and justice for all. And here it is, September already, and kids are going back to school. Some kids are going back to college. Some are staying home. Some are going into kindergarten. I saw some of them walking to school this morning. Looked a little reluctant, some of them. And everyone can understand why this dreadful virus is still with us, and I'm glad to see everyone taking the precautions. Seems like town-wide people are pretty respectful and being good members of society. So we really appreciate that as a town. Thank you so much. Approval of minutes, town board meeting of August 13th, 2020.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Bid opening August 19th, 2020, and you'll see this again in the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Special meeting of the Philipstown Depot Theater. You remember that was very intense.
Yeah.
August 13th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Committee reports, Conservation Board.
Okay, the Conservation Board meeting was discussed in the last town board meeting. However, I'd like to update today in relationship to the 6-month moratorium that we have on Upland Drive, Cliffside Court, and Ridge Road. The town attorney, also the highway superintendent, and myself drove all those roads and had a discussion regarding the issues. If you remember, we placed that on a moratorium so that we could view the issues that were at stake there. The county obviously also has a number of parcels that could be changing hands. We discussed that issue too and options for that. Sounds like that's a pretty go on their part. The main reason for this was one, I'll quote the attorney when we got to Upland Drive and part of Ridge Road. Is this a road? He couldn't actually believe how bad certain sections of this road was, that they were actually still a road. So, you know, while it might be on paper or issues, we have some serious concerns that way, and I expressed with him, especially about Upland Drive, anybody who accidentally went up on that road at night and didn't acknowledge or see a sign, which is like 1 or 2, and they would be easy to miss, you could find yourself in serious trouble. And because of that, these roads really need to be investigated from that standpoint, but also from a standpoint of development. The attorney noticed very clearly that a lot of these roads have very steep slopes. We also, on some of them, have swamps on the other side. These are extremely narrow. I think a horse couldn't even go on them, so they're pretty bad. So with that understanding, we discussed a number of possible options. I did show them some of the housing that actually is listed as flooding, because they get severe flooding at the bottom of Brookside Drive. I showed him that as well, to give him a full view of everything regarding what's there, what's currently there, what's happened in the area. We've had meetings in the past with the neighbors. Obviously, these are private roads, so therefore they are going to have to be decided by them. We are here also to help them and have been in the past, as there are options for them. There obviously is the option they could take, which is something I did on my road, was to change the road from private to town, but of course that's a process in itself, and the attorney will provide them with current details, because I did that years ago. But also, if they have to stay private roads, what kind of considerations will they be looking at? I have identified them as well and showed them the break-off point. On the map, Cliffside actually splits into 2 roads on the map. Cliffside Court begins at Winston Lane and ends at the beginning of Cliffside. And then the Upland Drive takes over from there and continues, of course, through the I'll call the Great Divide, that terrible section of road, all the way to Old Albany Post. It is possible, which he said and he'll look into, that both ends of the road could possibly take a look, if they decided not to go town or upgrade unless that was allowed, to be able to take a look at upgrading their roads. I have received calls and I've gone there and spoke to residents who have been there for years. Some residents are up in age. They're up in their 80s, late 70s, and naturally they're concerned about, would an ambulance get in here for me? Well, under certain circumstances, you know, it would be difficult. Carl said obviously they would do everything they could, but I pointed out without, you know, that if someone was having a heart attack or a serious medical issue, not being able to go up a road that is capable of driving up it under adverse conditions, which could be just rain and so forth, is serious. Some of this road, I can tell you, just within a few weeks, made a big difference when I was there. Just with some of the rains we had, some of it washed out very badly. So it is a serious concern. It's also a development concern. It's an environmental concern, which we spelled out when we placed this under a 6-month moratorium. And basically, we have taken a very important step forward. The attorney will take a look at options for us and will get back to us regarding things that the residents on these private roads can look at, plus the town can consider. In addition to that, the stormwater program, we obviously want to upgrade our stormwater information on the town web and cable. We are ordering more decals. Those are the storm decals that fit on all of the drains. We had to do them first in Continental Village because that's an MS4. That's a multiple sewer system district, and we made sure that happened first. But we want to do them to the entire town because it's very important that we have a united stormwater program for the whole town. And the Natural Resource Officer is also providing new updated stormwater training in order for the Highway Department to get involved with that. And we're looking at our next meeting on September 8th.
Thank you, Mike. And thanks for your work for the residents of Continental Village.
Thank you.
Recreation.
Good evening. The Recreation Commission met in July, and the next meeting is September 8th. But I wanted to report that Philipstown Park has been reopened. The Learning Center here at the Philipstown Recreation Department has delayed opening until October, which gives the recreation program time to see how reopening with the schools go before they open the Learning Center. The Director of Parks and Recreation, Amber Stickle, also did a survey of parents of children who are in the after-school and before-school programs, and she is assessing the need for those programs and how that will work. And she is developing, along with the Recreation Commission, they are working on social distance guidelines and the policies and procedures for all of those programs when they do begin. Virtual programming here at the Rec Center is continuing, and there is also a review of potential outdoor classroom space here at the Recreation Center, and that review is continuing as well.
Thank you, Judy. Philipstown Hub.
September, the Philipstown Hub report is usually made by Daniel Pack McCarthy, but she asked me to let you know that September is National Recovery Month and Suicide Prevention Month. The Hub will be holding a community conversation virtually on September 17th. Please check www.philipstownhub.org for updates and resources. The Hub is working hard to connect the community to our organization and to the resources that people need in our community. International Overdose Awareness Day was on August 31st, and the community honored the lives lost on our webpage and also through activities in honor of people lost to overdoses in our community. I just want to take a moment to thank Daniel Pack McCarthy and the staff and board of the Philipstown Hub for all their work throughout this difficult time for our community.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
Planning Board.
Okay, the planning board was held August 20th via Zoom. It was a very, very long meeting, 2 hours and 40 minutes. I will keep my report as brief as possible. Okay, first thing on the agenda was a return of escrow of Pel Lombardi, 18 Philipstown Drive, Ridge, Cold Spring. It was approved with the understanding of balance of $18 is still owed. And once that balance is paid, they will return the escrow. And I believe it's in here for tonight for resolution. Under new business, this was an applicant last month that did not get called upon because the meeting last month went very long as well. Andrew Kopler, 176 Moog Road, Garrison. The applicant is seeking approval of a site which includes an enlargement of an existing deck and the construction of a 3-season room and a formal courtyard on their 21.8-acre property. Glenn Watson presented the plan to lay out the addition of the 3-season room and much added landscaping. The board declared it a major project. There'll be lead agency, type 2 seeker act was taken. Referred to the Conservation Board, and EAF will be required. This property is already part of the conservation and easement held by the Hudson Highland Trust. A site visit is scheduled for September 13th at 9:30. Under old business, Magazine Art Foundation Museum, 27 Route 9, Cold Spring. They have 2 applicants under the planning board at this particular time. I've been reporting on these for the last several months. The first one is a lot line adjustment. Basically, just going to change some acreage up there for that one. This first one needs to be approved before they move into the second one. The second was more definitely involved. Like I said, I don't want to go too depth into this, as I've been reporting on it for quite some time. But they're planning on building a 3-story building over there, south of the existing building they have today. It's a very nice looking building, that the plans that they showed. They'll also increase the parking lot. They'll also take the parking lot they currently have today and expand that into this new parking lot. It's also, there was concern about what they call a scholar house on the property. We did get some details on that this past month. The scholar house is a 3-bedroom house, and it'll be turned over once a year for a new resident. It's basically for like a teacher or a student that goes there to study and so forth and teach art. So it'll be a 3-bedroom with its own well and connecting to an existing septic system down there. The plan board declared as a major plan, site plan, declared a type 2 seeker action, referred to the county planning, conservation board, and North Highlands Firehouse. A special use permit will be required because there's steep slopes. There'll be no activity in the wetlands buffer. May require application for a mass gathering permit. And basically, that's it. They were really pushing to get a public hearing, but currently we have 2 public hearings underway now, so the planning board did not want to schedule a public hearing until possibly maybe November. Okay, to continue on, we did continue with 2 public hearings. We had the CSR International Warehouse, 2761 Route 9, which is a new warehouse in a building. It's 14,000 square foot warehouse and 7,000 square feet of offices. Do employ approximately 18 to 20 people there, and discussed at the last public hearing basically the same things we're going over again. The biggest concern is traffic on Route 9. The 50-foot tractor trailer is coming and going. They did have an engineer study there for the traffic. They indicated there will be less than 1% increase in traffic on Route 9 that is currently there today. Obviously, residents in an area are concerned about their property values possibly declining, but that's basically the gist of everything. Everyone really had this concern about the traffic, the tractor trailers coming and going. The owner is going to try to schedule the deliveries, but sometimes that may not work out, but that's something he's going to look into that possibly could do. This public hearing remained open. Second public hearing was Philipstown Trust up there in Lake Valhalla. There's a subdivision of 770 acres into 3 parcels. Parcel A, 520 acres, will be conveyed to the state. 190 acres, which is really the current area where all the houses are today. That's going to be going over, and then we're going to create a homeowners association. Right now, the homeowner association does not exist, but it's something they got to work on. And parcel C will be 50 acres for a residential home that's already existing there today. Again, they had many people speak about this. We also had Evan Thompson and Linda Cooper from the state, and they advised everybody there are no plans for any type of trails or new roads or anything like that, which is what most people's concerns were. Also, many people, Hudson Highland Land Trust indicated that they are in favor of this, and they think this is the best opportunity for this piece of property. This public hearing was closed. Okay, there was other people that weren't on, didn't get, unfortunately weren't called because the time ran out. They'll be on next month's agenda. Meeting was closed at 10:15. Next meeting will be September 17th, 7:30, Viva Zoom. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for hanging in there. Zoning.
There was no zoning since our last town board meeting. The next zoning board will be Monday, September 14th. So
All right. Highway.
that's me, too. Highway, Philipstown Town Boards, call for Zenda, work performed by the Philipstown Highway Department for the month of August. Tropical storm Isaias wreaked havoc on many of the town's roads. Damage from wind, downed trees, and power lines was severe, especially on East Mountain Road South, Old Albany Post Road, and South Mountain Pass. Much of the crew's work was delayed by the wait for utility workers, Central Hudson, to determine 100% that the down wires were not live. Clearing and chipping brush continued for several days after the storm in order to clean up the roads. The permit from DEC has been received for the Avery Road Bridge Culvert Replacement Project. Bids went out for the job and the bid will be awarded tonight. Pipe and base installation work has been finished on East Mountain Road North in preparation for road paving in September. We are now waiting on the contractor. Meetings continue on the new highway building. We are moving forward with a team of engineers, consultants, and other vendors who will be working on the project. They are discussing roles, responsibilities, drawings, and coordination between each other. The Highway Department has received approximately 50 phone calls in August. Roughly $7,228 was spent on vehicle maintenance and repairs for the month of August, above monthly account submitted by Carl Frisend, the Highway Superintendent.
Thanks, John. Buildings and land acquisition, as you heard, we're moving ahead with a new highway facility, much needed. Updating the fuel tanks, the retention system for that, a brand-new building, all the things that go along with that to be a much more energy-efficient building and a more pleasant work environment. The work on Town Hall continues. We're still hoping to be in late October, early November. We're going to be having another meeting next week.
Yeah, I was there yesterday. There was not a soul working in the building. Today, there was some progress going on with the dais, so it is coming back as a project that's actually working. And on Tuesday, apparently, there's going to be a larger crew of people there working. So
We'll wait and see. But anyway,
Also, too, just so you know, I had the Verizon cables finally got moved in the basement, so now there's no reason for the plumbing where they want to put the pipes for the sprinkler system. It's not holding anything up, not that it was, but anyway, it's completed. Took a while, but it's done.
great. Thank you. Yeah, I know Verizon's not easy to deal with. Take a look at their overhead wires, you can tell.
But just so you know, that cable it's still in the building, but it's dead. So they took a new cable out of the pole, off the pole into the conduit that we ran into the basement. That's where it is now.
Perfect. All right, Cemetery Committee, Mike.
Okay, the August site visit was discussed in the last meeting. However, since then, we've decided to table ground radar, which we were going to do to look in the ground, basically because the committee feels, and I agree with them, that we really need to get back to the village cemeteries to work. You can see that there's a lot of foundations dug up, and we really want to get on that. So we're going to look at that. We also are pricing the fencing, which we discussed last month, for the General Morris crypt there in the Mountain Avenue Cemetery in the back. That's the one thing that they couldn't complete on the renovation in the past. I also was contacted by a Boy Scout looking to do work, and I would encourage any scouts or anyone in school that would like to work with us. There are areas where you can clean ground, graves itself, cutting away grass and so forth to expose those, and also mapping. Boy Scouts in the past have mapped some of our cemeteries, which does help us a great deal, and so that's available as well. So they could contact me, or if anybody would like to join it. We're currently doing site visits while we keep the weather, and we'll have one in September. We don't have the date for that yet. That's it.
Thanks, Mike. Putnam County Legislator.
I think Nancy had a prior commitment.
Oh, okay. All right. Agenda.
First item on the agenda is a
Mike, talking to Mike or Mike?
The first item is a resolution approving the purchase and lease purchase agreement of a 2020 International HX620 truck for the Philipstown Highway Department.
All right, this is something that's in the budget for highway for this year. Every year we try to update the fleet a little bit. We've been getting rid of the 20-year-old trucks. This to be a much more fuel-efficient truck, also an environmentally friendlier truck. Not that any large truck is environmentally friendly, but better than the old beaters that we send out on the road. Safer, just all around has to happen. It's going under a lease to purchase rather than borrowing for the truck because we can save some money doing that, about $10,000. Got a very, very attractive lease rate. The lease purchase rate on that is 2.87, so that's really, really good. So it's pretty much pro forma here. Could I get a motion on the resolution authorizing the highway super to make this purchase?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye, thank you.
Next item is a letter from Town Engineer Ron Gaynor with his recommendation for awarding the bid to Landworks Excavating, Inc. in the amount of $74,600 for the Highway Department Avery Road Culvert Repair Project.
Okay, there were two bids for that. Contech from Yorktown bid 141,862. Landworks, who we've worked with extensively, a lot based on pricing, but also he's an excellent contractor. He's at 74,600. Almost half Contech's price. He's fully licensed, bonded, and has done excellent work for us over and over. So he's hungry, he's a hard worker, he operates the machines himself. So I would definitely be in favor of going with that bid. Could I get a motion authorizing the Highway Department to begin work with Landworks in the amount of $74,600?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Landworks.
The next item is a resolution approving the return of escrow for Joseph Pell Lombardi, tax map number 16.11-1-9.
Okay, as Councilman Flaherty intimated earlier, this is approved by the the planning board. Motion made by Peter Lewis, and this is pro forma again. So could I get a motion on the resolution to return escrow?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye, thank you.
Next is a resolution immediately terminating the intermunicipal agreement with the Village of Cold Spring for building inspection and code enforcement services and waiving the 60-day notice with the stipulation that the Village of Cold Spring pay the Town of Philipstown for 10 weeks of service provided by the Town of Philipstown Building Department from June 1st through August 7th, 2020.
Okay, the village has decided they want to go on their own again. Best of luck to them. They're going to be taking on Butterfield and fire inspections in the village and a lot. We just had hired another person to do fire inspections. We have a lot to do in the town. It's not, this is not a blow to us. I think it is going to not work out as well for the residents, but this is up to the village. So we thought we were giving good service. Apparently, they disagreed.
I'd just like to say, I thought it was working out really well. Greg's doing a great job for us, and I thought he was doing a great job for the village as well. He also indicated to me that he's more than happy to help transition if anything needs to be done as well. He just didn't walk away from this. He said he was more than happy to help out the new building inspector. I did meet the new building inspector from the village, very nice lady. I think she's working 16 hours a week.
Yeah, I don't quite understand how it's going to better serve the residents of the village, but it's not our question and answer. But, they did have full-time, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day service. Now they're going to 2 days a week, so for inspections. Or she's going to come in. It's 16 hours versus 40 hours, basically. So,
As my father-in-law used to say, go no. But that's up to them, that's fine. We did interview this woman for building inspector several years ago. She's eminently qualified and a lovely person to boot. Very active in the Newburgh community and just a really nice person. So I'm sure that anybody who has interaction with her will have a completely satisfactory interaction. And any way we can help the village, we will continue to do so. So could I get a motion on that resolution terminating that agreement immediately?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Next item on the agenda is a Philipstown Climate Smart Program update with Coordinator Roberto Mueller.
Hello, Roberto. I know, it looks like summer camp or something. Thank you.
We've been busy too, so.
Oh, thank you for
Did you
everything you're
report
doing.
to
It's
the
terrific.
village last week?
Say again?
Did you report to
Yeah.
the village last week? Yeah, okay, I thought I read that in the paper, yeah.
Does this work? Sound good? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're doing well. It's nice to be back in here for the first time since high school. Yeah, we used to do pickup soccer in the gym a long time ago. So I have some very important news to share. There's kind of a long report, but I'll just very quickly summarize a couple items. I have some happy news and some sad news, first of all. My partner and I got engaged back in May, which we're very excited about. Thank you. But along with that decision, we've also decided that long term, we're not planning on staying in Philipstown for a couple of reasons, family and also just what we can afford. We're a bunch of hippies and eventually want to do some farming ourselves and find some land, which comes at a premium down here in the Hudson Valley. So most likely our goal is sometime by the end of next year to start making moves. So with that in mind, it seems wise now that the Climate Smart program is transitioning into a new project called the Climate Action Plan to bring the new coordinator who will take over into the fold as early as possible. So the hope is to find a replacement coordinator by the turn of the year so that they could take over on January 1st, 2021. I put together a job description, which I'll share with the board and also the town clerk so that we can post it. And also have encouraged folks from our volunteer task force to apply since they already have so much experience understanding of the program and the responsibilities of a coordinator that it would make the learning curve much easier since there's a lot of information that unfortunately I've had to stuff into my brain for the past 3 years. So I'll keep the board up to date on that progress. We do have 2 volunteers so far from our task force who are interested. So they'll submit resumes and a cover letter as well so the town council can review that.
Thanks for all you've done so far to bring, the start of this Climate Smart wouldn't have happened, I don't think, without you, so really appreciate
It's
all
been a
your
pleasure. I've
efforts on
learned a
that.
lot too. This has
You know.
definitely been a program that's kicked my butt in the right kind of way. So.
And we're sorry to see you leave, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, I know growing up here since I was 3 years old, it's also a hard decision to make, but we feel in the long run it's kind of the right thing for us. So the other main item, which is also very important that I wanted to share is, after 3 months of discussion and research and very intense deliberation, our Climate Smart Task Force voted on our recommended greenhouse gas emission reduction targets for government operations and also for the community. So the targets, we decided to set 2 targets, one for reducing emissions and then one for what's called carbon offsets. So for example, when you plant trees and they're capturing carbon from the atmosphere, that's considered an offset. And so it can help balance out some of the numbers. And I'll preface this by saying these are very ambitious. We talked about it for a long time and essentially we agreed that as a whole, it would be better for us to shoot for something ambitious, but very much based on the sense of urgency that we're getting from the United Nations and also from neighboring communities, rather than settling for something a little easier and then losing that sense of urgency to motivate people to take action and to do the best that they can. And in the end, if we fall short of our goal, but at least are shooting for something really ambitious, we'll probably actually end up achieving more than if we shot for something that was a little easier. And I guess the philosophy is it's important for one to, or one's reach to exceed one's grasp. So we're kind of incorporating that into the work ahead. So the reduction target that we'd like to recommend to the board is to reduce gross consumption-based emissions, which the number that we calculated in our community inventory was 198,000 metric tons of CO2 by 60% by 2030 and 100% by 2040. And then in addition, but also as kind of a plan B in case we don't get to that target, we'd like to increase local carbon removal, such as through forests, by 10% by 2030 and 15% by 2040. And so the idea is that's also a backup plan just in case we end up, struggling to achieve these
Do you
goals.
have any idea what those percentages represent in terms of planting trees and things like that?
Not off the top of my head, but it's pretty significant. Yeah, it'd be a lot.
You get a credit for the tree.
Exactly, yeah. And so in our community inventory, we were able to measure, the contributions. So now it's very easy to just take an acreage number and then apply that to a percentage reduction.
Also, just be,
Right.
what was the decision on counting local conserved land?
Essentially, we concluded because our forests pre-existed industrialization, getting all foggy, ethically, it doesn't make sense for us to claim that as a reduction because there's no additional forestation that has happened. So the idea is like 1800, before the foundry started in Cold Spring, this place was totally forested. And that's when, essentially action started that began climate change. Now that we're in 2020, our forests are probably similar, but a little bit less in terms of acreage. So there hasn't been any net change that's actually reduced carbon from the atmosphere. And we had long conversations with folks who drafted policy for the US, who are devising different policies around New York State as well. And their recommendation was be as ambitious as possible in setting your goals and be very careful of using these concepts of net zero, like we had talked about during the presentations. And based on the information we shared with them about our forest pre-existing industrialization, they also recommended it probably makes sense to work with this mindset. And then if we fall short, at least we've achieved a great amount. So.
All right, great.
And then next steps for that will be our task force will devise a request for proposals so that we can send them out to possible consulting firms that specialize in developing climate action plans. And so in their proposals, they'll say, this seems insane. This is actually somewhat realistic. We have ideas of how to approach this. And then based on that, we can then make the decision of how to proceed. And a little context is the Village of Croton and also a nonprofit called Sustainable Putnam have set the same reduction targets as us. So we feel a little more supported because there are other communities that have recognized the necessity for this, even though, for most people, it just seems totally nuts. But it's very much rooted in the severity of the situation and the, unfortunately, short timeline that we have to work with. Croton has developed a really cool online application called Croton 100, which allows households and businesses to track the changes that they make. And so we're also going to work with them to develop a similar type of app for Philipstown residents. And also with Sustainable Putnam, which is a new nonprofit that's formed. They're trying to help towns all around Putnam County in researching and figuring out how to provide solutions to households.
If we were to be successful with putting a solar installation on this building, would that go toward this?
Tremendously, yeah.
All right.
Yep, that would help a lot.
I was going to bring it up. As I indicated, I talked to Steve Gaba about it. He still hasn't had an opportunity to review it. He said he would get to it as soon as he possibly could, and I thought he would have had it by now. But I'll check with him again this week.
All right.
All right. So yeah, during our next couple of meetings, we'll be discussing this in depth, and a lot of it will depend on the proposals we end up getting from companies. But there are grants from the state, potentially, obviously. Everything is, whatever the word is, on hold, under consideration due to the pandemic. So, decisions and timelines will have to depend on that as well. But New York State grants very much support doing these types of climate action plans, and so there is potential funding available for it. Related to funding, the EV charging station grant that we put in May, it's just on hold for now because funds are frozen, but as soon as I get an update, I'll share that with the board. They said our application was very strong, but they can't give an official conclusion until funding is available. Similar to that, we just received a completed energy audit report from the New York Power Authority, which covers 5 Philipstown owned or rented buildings, including the recreation center, which was the biggest focus of the report. Because it's very in-depth and there are a lot of different directions we could take, I'd like to propose perhaps in October or November, depending on scheduling, holding a workshop to review the report and discuss possible next steps for it. And during that workshop, we can also touch on some of the reduction target questions and so on and so forth as kind of the next steps before launching into some implementation projects. And then the final announcement, which is exciting, is our In response to learning that refrigerants such as Freon and R22 are very strong greenhouse gases, the town has developed a refrigerant management program, which we're happy to announce is ready to launch. So now residents can bring old appliances, air conditioners, refrigerators, freezers, dehumidifiers to the recycling center on Saturdays between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. And they can still contain the refrigerant inside of the lines, and they will be properly disposed of. There's also a curbside pickup opportunity for folks who can't transport their own appliances, and folks just have to call the town clerk to request scheduling a pickup. When we have enough requests, then we can send someone out who's going to make the rounds and bring them over to the recycling center. And then in addition to that, we'll be sending out a mailer, which I attached on the next page, which has been a lot of work for our refrigerant committee, but we had a volunteer graphic designer put in a lot of hours. And it essentially summarizes the risks involved with refrigerant leakage and the opportunities for disposing of refrigerants properly. And this will go out to all households and businesses within Philipstown, so look out for that in your mailboxes within the next coming weeks. And this was paid for by the funds that we raised through our community solar program. So it came at no taxpayer expense, which is really awesome to say. And a lot of thanks to Jewel Community Power and the Hudson Valley Community Power Program that made this possible specifically. And that is all.
Well, thank you so much, Roberto.
You're welcome.
Congratulations again on your good news.
Thank you, yeah.
Did we identify a contractor that's gonna be taking care of that refrigerant and stuff? Do we have
That's going to be taken care of the...
Yeah.
The refrigerant management program.
management.
Yeah, they're called Interstate Refrigerant Recovery. They're based in Massachusetts, but yeah, they specialize in going to municipal recycling centers or landfills and collecting just the refrigerant. And then what's great is afterwards the appliance can just be recycled, taken up to AW scrap to make a little money back off of it.
Yeah, we do that today, but is it gonna be something that we're gonna like stockpile stuff and then we schedule
Exactly,
them?
yeah. So once we have 25 appliances, then we call them and schedule a visit. They're very affordable as well. They only charge $7 per household type of appliance. Something like a central cooling unit, because it has a lot more refrigerant, costs more because it just takes more time to extract it. And they also remove some of the oils, for example, from the motor in some of these appliances too.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much, Roberto. Thanks for everything you're doing. I mean, I think,
So I'll just step back for a second.
yes.
Next item on the agenda is a resolution adopting the energy benchmarking policy for municipal buildings, which I'm going to talk about a little.
So we have completed 3 out of 4 required actions for the Clean Energy Communities program. And it's kind of a complementary program to the Climate Smart program. New York State has a lot of different programs that sound very similar. And there's a easily achievable action that we can complete. They're ending the program on September 30th and then starting a new round. So it makes sense to file this final action. It's called energy benchmarking for municipal buildings. And essentially what it means is that the Climate Smart Coordinator will track energy usage of the various government buildings and their electric accounts, which luckily we're already doing because we did a government operations inventory. And so we already have a whole essentially program for tracking that. And then what they do is the coordinator enters it into the EPA's portfolio manager, which essentially allows you to compare how your building performs compared to another building of similar square footage, based on its insulation and windows and energy usage. And so then it gives you a rating for how your building matches up to similar buildings that might be more efficient or less efficient. And essentially what it creates is a good history of information on all the buildings and electric accounts and allows the government to then have a lot of data to make the right decisions on different implementation projects.
All right. Well, we know we have a lot of work to do, but it seems like we're heading down a good path.
Yeah.
So,
And we have a lot of committed volunteers too, which has been the main reason we've been able to achieve so much. There's a group of 20 people. Some folks have come, some have gone, but we've been able to keep that consistent group size. A lot of very passionate parents, grandparents who really care about these issues and are committed to continue working on them, as Mike has been able to observe.
With a lot of talents, too. so.
Yeah, and what's great is we have a lot of expertise in the committee as well that makes our decision-making much more intelligent.
I'd say with the lack of leadership at the federal level, this is the only way this problem's going to be solved from
Unfortunately,
local municipalities. So, thank you so much. So with that, we have the resolution in front of us to adopt the benchmarking policy for municipal buildings. As Roberto said, we already have a government operations inventory, so we're well along the way with this. Could I get a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you so much, Roberto, for
You're
all this
welcome.
work.
Thank you too.
Before we move on to item number 7, I did get a late addition from the Justice Court Clerk, and she is requesting that the town board authorize the Justice Court Clerk to apply for a JCAP grant for 2021 for up to $30,000. And it's a roll call vote.
This is something we've done before for the justice courts. Last time we were able to buy new chairs with it. We got the security door that way. It's a good way to supplement the town budget, so we're pleased that Cindy is applying for this, so.
We also got it last year for the new security cameras.
Right, new cameras. So if we can get some further monies, it would be great to help with things that the Justice Court wants to do in addition to the things we're doing at Town Hall now, or to offset some of those costs. So could I get a motion on a resolution authorizing the Justice Courts to apply for a JCAP grant?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
And thank you to Cindy for.
Is it roll call? Okay, Councilman Flaherty,
Aye.
Councilwoman Farrell,
Aye.
Councilman Leonard,
Aye.
Councilman Van Tassel.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Next item on the agenda is a brief discussion regarding paving at East Mountain Road South.
Okay, we did have a workshop on this last week. Boy, how time flies. We heard from a lot of people. I can understand the feelings. I certainly understand the issues involved. This was scheduled to be done in 2014, was put off, was scheduled to be done last year, did not get done, was in last year's budget. And I'm not swayed by the arguments. I'm just not. The other thing I would say is that people shouldn't get tunnel vision over this. You know, this town board doesn't just deal with this 1,100-foot section of road. As you can see by the agenda tonight, we're dealing with a lot of really large issues in town all over. And not just the things you see here. You know, we're also feeding people, making sure they stay in their homes, making sure people have medicine during this time, but also improving our facilities while trying to save the planet. So in this issue, I have not been swayed, I have not changed my mind, and I would be in favor of proceeding with this. This is not something we need to take a vote on. In order for the town board to have negated this initiative, they would have had to vote against the entire town board budget, or the town budget for 2019. So that was my budget. I approved it. I brought it into the town board. The highway super had brought that project back to us, and I am just still feeling that I would approve it again. So with that, if the board has anything to add.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would just like to say, I was reminded by a good friend of mine that it's our job to listen, and that's why we had the workshop last week. And I appreciate all the enthusiasm that was in the room. You have a purpose that you believe in, and you fight for it. But it's not only our job to listen to the people that are here, it's our job to listen to the people that aren't here. And we hear from them regularly. And we also need to listen to our own conscience. For the fact that I've been on the board for 10 years, we've heard every argument. But then it comes down to finances, it comes down to what the experts suggest, and the knowledge that we've gained being up here all these years. So I was not swayed either by the argument. I am 100% in support of the paving. Our roads are just that, they're roads. They're not recreation areas. They're not trails. We have plenty of trails. We have plenty of recreation space right here. The roads are for transportation. The roads are for school buses. The roads are for fire trucks. The roads are for ambulances. Mrs. Dushin, I'm not offending you that you're horseback riding. I love the fact that you ride your horse. But that's not the main purpose of the road. And there's a lot of roads, whether they're paved or they're dirt, that you wouldn't be safe riding a horse on or you pushing a baby carriage. I just don't feel that that's the place for it. There are areas in the town that are suited for it, without a doubt. So I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm 100% in support of paving that 1,100-foot section of road.
Councilman Flaherty.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, brought up that everyone praised Carl for all the work that he's currently doing, from our last highway superintendent to what Carl have today. Everyone in that room praised him. So, and we take Carl's advice. He comes to us, gives us what he wants to do throughout the year, and we support him. So I'm in favor of paving this as well.
Councilwoman Farrell.
I also support the paving of the road. While I empathize with everyone who enjoys the bucolic nature of the road, and I too like walking on dirt roads, but in our role as town board members, as John said, we have to consider all of the town residents and all of the resources that we have, and also trust the judgment of the experts that we have on our staff. And I do trust Carl Frisenda's judgment on this issue, and I support the Highway Department for all the work that they've done through the years. And I think it's really important to our community to listen to all of the residents, while understanding, you know, some people will be disappointed. But I think it's important to go forward with this.
Mike?
Yes, I support it as well. I want to thank everybody for sending in the letters and so forth, even including today, because it's important, and I think it speaks very well of you, the fact that you took the time, you laid out a lot of issues. We have clearly waited. Today I even spoke to Carl Frisenda again, just to make sure that he had read all the information, and we went through it and so forth. Because I understand there are a lot of people with a lot of concerns regarding this. Personally, I think from a standpoint of speed, I don't think saying that we should just keep dirt roads for speed. There are other mechanisms available to us to be able to slow speed. One of them is in the current legislature right now is a proposal to take that 30-mile-an-hour standard for towns and allow towns to be able to drop them to 25. I think that's at least a step forward, and there are other measures that could be taken as well. Otherwise, if we just say dirt roads should be used for speed, then Carl should do a worse job and let them stay in worse condition, and then every car would have to slow down a great deal. So I think there are other ways to handle that, so I really don't think that that's really a valid reason. Plus, personally, I see very little difference in speed between the paved and the dirt road with people passing. I don't see a lot of slowdown from it, so I don't see that as an issue as well. And I do feel that between the two roads, this is not an historic road that has been brought up clearly, which is an excellent point. We have a tremendous amount of hiking in this town, off roads, which are much safer as well. There are certain roads I've told people, please be careful, because these really are extremely narrow, windy roads, and using the trails is such a safer thing to do. So I would implore people to really utilize what we have here. We have a tremendous amount. We have a park and so forth. We should really be using those if we're interested in taking trails, especially in that area. There are clearly trails that people could go to very easily. So I do support this. Obviously, I went through the money issues with him as well. This makes sense, so I'm in support of it.
All right, thank you. I know there's been some calls saying, well, you're not listening to us, this is not democracy, but, you know, democracy involves the entire community, and if we were putting these things to a referendum, I think people might start seeing that the tide was moving against them. We've had a lot of calls to pave other sections of roads that we have resisted, and come to understand certain roads have a higher significance in terms of historic value. You know, the old Albany Post being number one among those. But you want to talk about democracy, we need to talk about all 9,900 residents in this town. And we did receive a lot of input, and we did receive another signed petition today from residents of East Mountain, solely from residents of East Mountain. So, you know, anecdotally, I would say in the past, from groups we've met with, from the calls we've had, from people who have just polled us at different times, if this were to go to a vote, I think you'd start seeing a lot more paving, and I'm not saying we're in favor of that, but I do believe that would be the outcome, because the majority of people in this town do not live on dirt roads, but they do fund them through their taxes. So with that, if there's anyone who would like to make a comment from the audience, we would take a little time to do that. Yes, ma'am. Right. Can you come to the microphone?
I will just briefly state the 3 points that I made last week. Speed control is essential, and you've been exempting people who are neighbors, who are historic, who, I don't know what. You need to post, need to enforce it, need to follow through on the speed problem. It's true, according to everything that I have read and courses that I have taken, that a dirt road that is properly drained will save money and save material. We don't have drainage here, even though Carl has done an outstanding job with everything else. The main new point that I'd like to make is that I noticed new paving on Fraser and Coleman roads. It's thick, shiny, black, really nice paving. However, those 3 roads intersect with Route 9 in a way that is horrendously dangerous. If you would like to go on Fraser Road and turn south, turn left, you have to cross the northbound traffic, and you can't see what's coming from the southbound. That's true on Coleman, and it's true at the other end of Fraser Road, where there has already been a fatal accident years ago. Those 3 roads should not have been paved so that they look really enticing. GPS often opts for a better road. That GPS won't know that somebody can be coming out of Fraser to go south and can't see anything.
But Betsy, I'm not sure what this has to do, if this is germane to the current issue we were talking about, this 1,100-foot section. This is an entirely different topic you're introducing right now.
Yes, I just took this opportunity because I thought it was related in terms of paving, speed, and danger.
Right, but you're talking about a road that is miles from the road we're talking about now that has nothing to do with an intersection or any of this. It's, an 1,100-foot section of road that connects pavement to pavement.
Well, it's only connected because speed is worse on paved roads.
And that is anecdotal, so
Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else?
I have 2 people on Zoom. If possible, I would put them at the mic and see if one of them could speak. One of them is Roy Rosenstein.
Yes.
Let's see if this works. Roy, you ready?
Where is this beeping coming from?
I don't know. Sorry, I lost it.
Lives on East Mountain, right at the intersection. Lives just down from
Sorry.
toward the Wikipedia side after the intersection. He used to be on a dirt road.
Wait a minute, Roy, I need to turn you on louder. Ah, gosh. Go for it. Start speaking. Roy?
Thank you.
There you go.
Flawed comparison to say that the town board has resisted paving.
Oh, you're gone. Sorry. It's coming back. Let's give him one more chance, please. Would you mind? I've been working so hard to try to make this happen. It's not working. I think the phone doesn't have enough of a... all right, I'm sorry. Lost it.
That is the Chinkle section. I just don't find these arguments credible.
Roy, wait a minute. Roy, you have to go back. You have to go back. We lost, you have to go back to after your first sentence.
Okay. Am I good to go?
Yes, please.
So I was saying that I think it's a flawed comparison, perhaps you heard that part, to speak about resisting paving requests on other roads when the example given is Albany Post Road, because it's protected. Here we have a road, East Mountain Road South, that is not protected, as you say, but where a mass of people, a mountain of people, we could say, don't want to see it paved. I'd be very surprised.
I'm going to read what he has here.
Who want to pave a low-maintenance, short, flat, straightaway stretch that is the Chinkle 1,000 feet. I'm troubled by these arguments, and I'm troubled by the statement that you have no plans to pave any further. 5 years ago, or 6 years ago to be more accurate, no one had plans to pave this section either. And that's what we were told.
It was put into the budget in 2014.
One more chance.
Now or ever. Joe Percocciolo made a promise like that, and he kept to it. The standard phrase, the formula that you repeatedly use, not to have no plans to pave, is just about meaningless, as we've seen from the change from 5 or 6 years ago. This is just another step in paving East Mountain Road South. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to rebut that in saying that statistics and the history of this do not bear out what Mr. Rosenstein is asserting. You know, it's been more than 10 years, perhaps 15 years, and there's been 1.5 miles of paving done. So to say that we have this plan to go further, or we have, you know, some ulterior motive here, it's just not borne out by the facts. You have this small amount of paving, one in a road that would wash out in virtually every storm, no matter what we did to it, no matter what sort of drainage we put in, no matter what sort of crowning surface. We took every piece of advice we could on the South Mountain Pass side of things. That road was chronically washing out, and not washing out a little, washing out to the tune of 6 feet deep. And not just washing out, but washing directly into a brook. So that paving was justified. This paving was slated again 6 years ago, 2014. Would have been finished, but we've had other things come up all the time. Again, was put back in the budget 2 years ago, slated to go ahead, and now it's going ahead by all appearances. Is there
Roy,
any-
are you okay with? Are you saying any more? All right. Thank you.
There was this workshop here that you started by saying you didn't know why we were here, and it seemed like you dismissed it offhand.
I did not say I did not know why you were here. I said that I was surprised that there was so much angst over this after being public for 6 years.
At that workshop, about 15 or 16 people spoke for the dirt road and one person for paving, and then you say, and by the way, we have as many people for pro-paving. Never any proof that it is so. You said a petition today. Is it a petition with 226 signatures like Roy's petition? And always it's just that, oh, there is a reason. Oh, it just seems like there's no proof of that there are that many pro-pavers.
Well, we do have those names on a petition. It's a public document if anyone would like to see it. We have had many meetings with people who would like us to pave further. We've resisted those calls. I was not dismissive of anyone. I said that I was surprised that people were taken or caught off guard about this issue since it's been publicly discussed for 6 years. It was on the docket, so I'm not dismissive of anyone's opinion. I never am. And that's simply not true. You can get a petition with 216 names. There's not 216 residents of Philipstown either on that petition. It's people who don't live on the road, people who don't even live in this town. I can go around and collect 216 signatures from people everywhere on any issue. And I'm sure we could collect 216 signatures from people in town who would be in favor of paving. It's just the effort to go out and do it. People who are happy with our decisions generally don't show up and start voicing their opinion. I thought the woman who showed up last week was treated poorly at one point in the meeting. I will say that Vera Kyle is a lovely person, a longtime resident of this town, 40 years on East Mountain. She comes to voice her opinion, and I thought that several people in the audience were dismissive of her, and I felt badly for her. But she was courageous and stood up and voiced her opinion, and I respect her for that, as I respect everyone in this room for their opinion. But with that, we're going to move on. We've beat this a while.
I would just like to say I was not dismissive of Vera. I never would. She's a very dear friend. We agree to disagree on many things, and we agree to agree on many things. And I thought everybody was pretty cordial with her at the word.
I didn't find Russell Dushin cordial with her one bit.
I'm sorry?
I did not find Russell Dushin cordial with her one bit.
Maybe I didn't notice that.
Well, it was hard to miss if you were looking for it, but I'm sure.
But I did
He said his voice was less important than hers because he was out of town.
If you want to speak, you can come up to the microphone. That wasn't how I interpreted it. At any rate, we're moving on. Oh, Barbara, yes. If you want to speak, you need to come to the microphone.
Please.
Yes.
Otherwise, nobody can hear you.
I'm just going to be brief. I realized at the last meeting that you had already made a decision, but I had written you a couple of letters, and I want to know if you ever read the Philipstown Road Advisory Committee's report.
I have read that report in the past, yes.
Okay, because some of the things that you said were not true, okay? And all the evidence is there in the report. And I'm just wondering if anybody, if you all really read that. And I sent you an email today.
I have never read it, and I did read your letter, and
You really should.
the comparison of accidents on paved roads versus dirt roads is apples to oranges, basically because of the volume that's on the dirt roads versus the paved roads. Even if you take out, like you said, didn't include 990 or 301, there's still other paved roads that see a lot more traffic because people avoid the dirt sections, obviously. So the comparison, the safety, I watch people drive, I bike the roads all the time, I walk, I'm out all the time in this community, I work and live in this community. The people drive at the same speed on the dirt roads that they do on the blacktop road. That's my opinion, and it's my...
That's your opinion, but the fact is that that's not true. People drive faster on the paved roads, and I do that too.
I've been a volunteer fireman for almost 40 years here in the community, so I think I have quite a vast experience with accidents in the Philipstown community. So,
Well, if you look at the report in that Roads Committee report, it took 5 years. It was 5 years. And they
was it
looked at
written?
whether it was animals, but the main thing was that speed was the main part. And it's a fact, everybody knows, you ask engineers, anybody in the whole country, people of course drive faster on paved roads because it's easier to do so. You can't drive as fast on a dirt road.
okay.
So, but I'm just saying, you really should do your homework because some of the things I heard really are opinions.
We
Not
do
that.
our homework night after night.
Ten
We're
times
out
over.
We're out over 100 nights a year, and that does not include the times that we meet online, speak to each other. We do our homework, believe me. We spend a lot of time working for the town, and having tunnel vision about an issue like this, at a time like this, also is sort of skewed.
I find it interesting that the people that live on dirt roads are on a first-name basis with Carl and his crew. What does that tell me? That tells me is our guys are spending too much time on the dirt roads. It's just a fact. Every one of you know Carl on a first-name basis. If you ask somebody who lives on Eustis Road, they probably don't know who Carl is, or any of his crew members. That's just an observation I got last week. They don't know who Carl is.
I don't know the crew
Because
members
they go out, the only time they see a highway truck is when it's plowing or sanding,
Yeah.
or cleaning up trees.
Well,
We
I've
do
called Carl many times, and I'm about to call him
continuous
again.
maintenance on some sections of dirt road, and it's not feasible for the rest of the residents. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
That's fine, that is your opinion, but I'm telling you, if you look at studies all over the country, you will find the same results. There's a lot of things that can be done. I would like it if you would take a look and maybe put into law some scenic road designations. You know, that's a possible thing. You know that our roads are very important. They add to the environment, and it's important to a lot of people. A lot of people who live on the roads. Some people maybe purchased property on a dirt road. Maybe it was less expensive, but of course, you know, if you live on a mountain, what can you expect?
We've had several letters in the recent months that people that bought on dirt roads want us to pave them.
Maybe.
So it goes both ways, Mrs.
But
Silva.
you
It's
know,
both
you
sides.
buy on a dirt road, that's what you've got.
And that's basically what we tell them. Did you not see it when you bought the house?
That's what you got. Some
Right.
people don't like them. I don't know why they bought them in the first place, but that's their business.
Say that somebody's an environmentalist and supports a dirt road, I find that a contradiction of terms, because the runoff and the dust and the carbon footprint of maintaining these roads are 10 times than it is on the blacktop.
You know, the petroleum is not good for.
That blacktop plant's gonna run whether we're using it or somebody else is using it.
Pardon me?
The plant that creates that blacktop is gonna be operating whether we're buying it or somebody else is.
I'm interested in protecting our environment too. And again, you know, we had engineers' studies. The roads committee met for 2 years every week. And what was put together still holds up today. And it's not only, I met, you know, other engineers, other organizations have also come out with that. But it's factual, it's not opinion. We were very careful in putting that together. And it's still a good report, even though it's so old. And you ought to look at it and take it seriously. And maybe you should think about designating some of the scenic historic roads as a town law, because they are an asset to our community. I don't know if you think that way, maybe you don't think they are, but a lot of people do. And they look at Philipstown and they say, this is very special. Thank you.
But they are clearly affecting our environment. I can tell you watching our stormwater management program, these dirt roads are clearly filling up our wetlands. We only have 5% of wetlands in this town. That is not a high number. And every time Carl's on the committee, and so is the natural resource officer, and every time I'm discussing issues about filling, flooding, because once those wetlands, besides the environmental side, they flood other properties, and I'm always dealing with dirt roads. So it's not correct to say that they're not affecting the environmental issues. They clearly are, it's proven.
When I was a child, we used to fish and ice skate on Barrett's Pond. You could basically walk across that pond now. It's full of dirt. I'm not sure where the dirt, I'm not sure where the dirt came from, but I would assume Foundry Dam Road before it was paved, but.
One of the very important things that came out with many studies is that, and they said in Philipstown, both paved roads and dirt roads, that drainage, proper drainage is the key before you do anything, so that you don't get that kind of thing. You know, during Irene, the pavement broke up on Avery Road on the beginning of Route 9. I don't know why it didn't wash out Indian Brook Road, but drainage.
Because a large culvert was blocked, and it flooded the road and took the road with it. That was the cause of that. And you're talking about an extraordinary event. If during Irene, East Mountain Road North had been an unpaved road, we probably wouldn't have a road there. We also lost a colossal section of that road at that time, wholesale, where you could not even tell there had been a road there.
Indian Brook was 7 feet deep, if you remember that.
Yeah. So,
Indian Brook Road.
at any rate,
Yeah, Indian Brook Road did not flood.
What's that?
Indian Brook Road did not flood.
No,
It
it was
was
gone.
Off,
Indian Brook, east of Old Albany, was gone. You could not drive through it. You couldn't go through it with a bulldozer
I'm not sure what you're talking about, but
during Irene.
well, we walked it at that time. Indian Brook Road at that point disappeared on the eastern side.
okay, not where I live then.
Right, not your section, but there is other areas. And,
Yeah.
and the emergency services need to get to these other areas, and the roads need to be open, and that's the key.
Well, there is drainage. The drainage is an issue on both dirt roads and paved roads, and that was one of the most important things that also came out of that report. And we've never done it, so.
Right, we're starting to wander farther afield than we should on this particular issue. So, we're going to move on. Oh, Richard Butensky, come on up. Sure.
I realize that nothing's going to happen with this, that your decision is made, but I still want to stick up for at least this dirt road and for dirt roads in general for the future. And I'd like to say that the Federal Highway Administration considers dirt roads more environmentally friendly than paved roads. Trout Unlimited considers dirt roads more environmentally friendly than dirt roads. Dirt roads more environmentally friendly than paved roads. Now, that doesn't mean in every circumstance. But my feeling is that a dirt road, if it's engineered properly, has the potential to be the most environmentally friendly, whereas a paved road, once it's done, and it's over. And it's going to be paved from here to eternity, and the environmental problems with paved roads will always be there. A dirt road, you have the potential to make it a good dirt road that is environmentally friendly. That's all I'll cover with that. And as far as a dirt road having great trails to walk on, I walk our trails. I think they're great. But I also walk the roads. And I love walking on the roads for a different reason, because I run into my neighbors on the road. And when I walk the roads where I live, which is paved, it's not as comfortable to walk on the road, and there aren't as many neighbors out walking on the road. When I walk the road up where it is dirt, I run into many more people. The road is used by neighbors to walk. People.
Sorry about that. Say good night to our former colleague.
People do use the roads for walking their babies and baby carriages, and it is actually safe. The people go slow enough that, no one would take their baby on a road that they felt unsafe on. I know this woman who's currently walking her baby carriage on the road wouldn't do it on my section of the road because she wouldn't feel safe doing it. She does it where it's dirt. So to me, this is, yes, I realize the main purpose is transportation. I realize that sometimes there are issues that need to be addressed in terms of washouts and things like that, and that some places maybe truly do need to be paved. I understand that. But it is an asset to many neighborhoods, these dirt roads. They are a place for neighbors to meet each other. It makes our neighborhood stronger. It's not just a place to get from point A to point B in the quickest way possible. So I urge you, I realize your decision is made here, I respect it, but I urge you to, and I know that you haven't done a lot of paving in the last 10 years, but small sections do add up. They do have an effect on our neighborhood. And I urge you to be as reticent as possible when it comes to paving. Thank you.
So I would say that we are ardent supporters of dirt roads. If we weren't, you would see a lot more paving. Again, at the rate we're going, over the next 100 years, you would see 15 miles of paving. So the assertion that we're crazed to pave is not true. We include money every single year, lots of it, to maintain the dirt roads. So it's not as if we're anti-dirt road. We're talking
A brand new grader 2 years ago.
Yeah, we have a brand new Volvo grader. You know, other towns don't have graders
We're
for
the
dirt
only one
roads.
that
The county
everybody-
doesn't have a grader for dirt roads. They borrow ours.
Yeah.
So we put a lot of money into the maintenance of these dirt roads and the preservation of these dirt roads. And we do have an understanding. We've worked with the Office of Historic Preservation at the state level. We've done archaeological studies on dirt roads. And, you know, I would say the Old Road Society had really opened our eyes to a lot of the significance, especially of the Old Albany Post Road and the Indian Brook Road. So, yes, Alex.
I just wanted to speak on behalf of a good friend, a next door neighbor, who was here at the last meeting, who you said was rude to other folks in here. And this person's family is in the audience.
I understand that.
And
see that.
I just wanted to point out that his distaste that he was expressing was because the other person you mentioned had said that maybe his voice wasn't as important as
She
hers
did not
because he
single
was
him
not
out.
a year-around person.
She made a general statement.
Right, and he
And
took
maybe it was
offense
thin
to
air,
that
but you
and
don't
just...
need to jump all over someone when they're the sole representative in the room of an opposing position. It was wrong. It was rude.
It's rude that you mentioned his name here tonight without him being present in front of his family. And
I think you're wrong. I think I'm stating facts.
I think I'm stating facts. You make up a lot of facts, man. Now, and Barbara pointed them out tonight. A lot of people have pointed out a lot of the facts that you seem to hold as these truths. And one truth is, he was simply stating that he took offense to the fact that someone was suggesting that his voice was not as important as her voice.
And I personally thought his tone was wrong.
Well, if you're upset, sometimes it's a little hard to, express that way. I think that it's obvious which side you're on, Rich. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, thank you very much. Like, one person comes in, and it's, where are all the other people? The other gentleman pointed that out too. They're represented here by you without any numbers or anything. It's just...
Where are the other 9,900 people in Philipstown right now?
Could care less, honestly.
They're home.
Yep.
Right, because, well, I mean, we're out here because we care about this topic. I guess they don't care about the topic, but apparently you think that they care about the topic strongly enough not to show up, and that's important. It makes no sense to me.
We said that there was a number of letters submitted. People can show up to discuss an issue, but they also have the right to write a letter to us, which we read, and that is evidence.
Yes, Carl.
I'm Carl Dushin, brother of Russell,
Yes.
who brought up. This is Leona Dushin, my mother.
Yes.
We think it's pretty rude, if not slanderous, for you to bring up his name up in a public meeting, a recorded Zoom public meeting. He's not here to defend himself, and that it's all on record that you have some sort of animus with my brother.
No, not at all. I consider your brother actually to be a friend of mine. I disagreed with his tone that evening.
All right. A question related to East Mountain Road North. That's going to be, that has had some preliminary paving. I think you brought it up in,
There's been some drainage and base repair done, and now they're gonna resurface that area.
Right,
Yeah.
and when will that happen?
September is what I read off in the report.
Okay, it's hard to hear.
Yep, sorry.
All right, I can't get an apology out of you, Richard?
No, I'm not going to apologize for voicing my opinion. I'm not. If Russell wishes to talk to me, he can call me up, he can come to another meeting. I just found his tone off-putting that evening.
Well, that woman here was the only person that's shown up between the workshop and this meeting in favor of paving, of part of the public.
That does not mean she's the only person in Philipstown who is in favor of paving.
Well, apparently it's pretty lopsided, and you guys are unanimous about paving those 1,100 feet, and we're not trying to stop you, but the irony is pretty apparent that you claim that there's people in favor of paving, but we don't see any evidence.
Well, if you wish to see the evidence, these are all the letters are public documents. The petition is a public document. The meetings we've had in the past with people's statements that made them publicly are all on record. So,
All right, well, thanks. If anyone else, I think that's it.
You guys said that it costs a lot of money, and you put a lot of money into the roads. Who's paying for it?
everyone in Philipstown, yes.
We are, right.
Yes.
And we're very happy too. And I don't want to be the person who stands here now or a year from now or 5 years from now to witness the demise of Vox Populi, Latin for the people's voice.
Yes.
So please listen to us sometime. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Leona.
If I may, I will stand pave tomorrow, pave more than 1,100 feet, go further, because I live on East Mountain Road North, intersection of North and South. We see Carl's crews monthly with at least 10 yards of gravel being brought up to replace the washout. On the paved sections, we will see Carl's every 18 months, maybe. It stands for itself. So I wasn't going to say anything until I found out that no one here wants to see it paved. Please pave. Thanks. Oh, Robert Jordan.
Bob, I couldn't recognize you with your mask off.
Oh, there you are.
I just have one half a second thing just to say about Carl. That I think the reason people know Carl Frazenda is not because he's there all the time, but because he campaigned like crazy on East Mountain Road South. And he kept saying how he was not going to pave another inch. That was one of the things he told us. When he went house to house, we had his sign in the yard. So that's why we know Carl, not because he's there all the time.
But I think over the years, he's gained some more knowledge about the maintenance and the runoff.
Which he is good at, and it proves it's possible to me.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
it's
I
obviously
told you last time, I come from Michigan, there are unpaved roads that are maintained beautifully.
Right, and are they lined with stone walls and a 14% grade?
All
Or?
kinds of crazy mountains and things, you know. So, anyway, I just wanted to say about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Back to the agenda.
So next on the agenda is the scheduled workshops or meetings. We have the monthly town board meeting of October 1st. And then I know Roberto mentioned a workshop earlier to go over the NYPA results. So I don't know if we'll schedule that now or wait. He did not provide me with any dates, so I don't know.
And he's gone. So let's just get a date and we'll schedule one. At his convenience.
Okay.
But we'll be here in October, but I would like to get up to speed with him on the report and. All right.
I have a meeting. Can I say
Sure.
that? Yeah, just so it's on there. I set up a meeting, obviously, for Cottonelle Village, dealing with their water issues. On September 21st at 7 p.m. at the Continental Village Clubhouse, we basically have a fact-finding meeting. The fire department, the water superintendent, the park superintendent, the Continental Village Association president, the town engineer, and myself will sit down and discuss issues regarding how we can try to improve the water quality in that area. We will have a larger meeting for the people in the area once we go through this, but we're trying to do a process of elimination of things that were brought up, including Rich had brought a couple ideas up. Some were shot down, unfortunately, by the Board of Health. This issue is is very difficult to deal with, but we are aggressively going after it. So if anybody's listening from Continental Village, we hear you. We've been working on this, and hopefully we'll be coming up with some options for us to move forward. Thank you.
So what Mike is referring to, there's been intermittent complaints of brown water in certain sections of Continental Village, and we're trying to ascertain the source of this and the cause of it.
Right.
We had certain suspicions when the system is either flushed or when the fire truck, the tanker's filled, but recently the two are not syncing up, so we brought the town engineer in, and Mike is spearheading this issue.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Thanks for your help.
Next up is the code enforcement monthly report.
There's only one of them now.
Only one of them now. It's for August. Fees collected was $24,150.75. There were 35 total number of permits issued, 1 new 1 or 2 family dwellings, 4 additions, alterations, or repairs to residential buildings, 31 other permits including pools, decks, sheds, plumbing, HVAC, etc., 21 certificates of occupancy, 1 stop work order issued, 2 inspections of public assembly, 2 inspections of commercial occupancies, and the code enforcement officer would like to remind everyone that September is a good time to service your heating appliances and clean your chimney for the upcoming colder weather.
Our thanks to Greg Wunner. He does a terrific job for us, so we're in good hands. Anything else from the town board?
Yeah, one thing. I'd just like to encourage everyone to take the survey that the comprehensive plan is conducting right now. There is a section about roads in there, so it's a good time to get your opinion logged into this comprehensive plan. Just go to Philipstown2020.com and you'll find the survey there. Also encourage everybody to do your census. That's coming to the end soon too.
Yeah, thanks for that reminder, Bob. That is very important. And also, we want to be number 1 in the score. We want to rocket to the top. So, but the census does determine allocation of funds and members of Congress. So please do fill out your census form and get it in. Or if you hear that knock at the door, don't be afraid to answer it.
Or you can go to 2020census.gov.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you.
You can do it right there. I also wanted to mention, related to the storms that we had in the area, I spoke to Central Hudson, and they said while homeowners can ask their insurance companies to reimburse them for lost food, homeowners can also file a claim at claims@centralhudson.com. They're not guaranteeing reimbursement, but they'll consider each claim on an individual basis.
And were you able to reach out to the specific person from?
Yes, from this region.
All right, and
Robin Moore, I believe her name is.
Right, so
Robin Morgan, sorry. Yes.
Is the rep from Central Hudson, you're saying?
Yes, the regional rep.
The person who had written the letter to us, were you able to reach out to her and get her that information?
I will get that information to her.
Good.
I just heard back from them.
Thank you. Thanks so much for following up on that.
And also, I just wanted to add that the Putnam Board of Elections at putnamboe.com, you can get absentee ballots if you would like to vote, and certainly, get your absentee ballot in the mail if you don't feel comfortable going to the polls this fall.
Didn't they send out a letter?
They have, yes. They've sent it out.
They
to
sent out an
residents.
absentee ballot application.
Yes, they're sending it out to everyone.
Yeah.
So you can get an absentee ballot, you can vote by mail, but by all means, please do vote, everyone. Anything else from the board? Anything else from the audience that has thinned out significantly? Yes, Liz? It would be helpful if you went there. If you want to be on the record, exactly.
I just had a question. I saw, and this is in regard to the now terminated shared services agreement regarding the shared building inspector. There was a fairly sharp letter from the mayor of Cold Spring saying that Greg Warner was not cooperative, that he's not returning the files to the village, and did not want to meet, failed to meet with the new person in Cold Spring that's becoming the building inspector, which is just the opposite of what you guys said tonight about Greg being willing to meet with the new person in Cold Spring. So I'm just wondering, you know.
Great. Well, a sharp letter from the mayor about anything is not that surprising. If anyone who knows the mayor, I know him personally. He's passionate about things. But Greg is completely willing to meet with the new building inspector. I know that he alphabetized the current files, put them in boxes, and brought them down to Jeff at the village hall. So it wasn't as if we just dropped things off. He did alphabetize them, stack them into boxes, file cases, and then bring them down. I know he had intended to subsequently meet with the new building inspector, go through the files, and that may not have happened yet, but it will happen. But I know Greg has no issue with meeting with the new building inspector.
Okay, so maybe things have happened since that letter was written.
Yeah, we've had several conversations. I spoke with the mayor, I understand his concerns. If you're not getting the service that you desire, it's your prerogative to go ahead and make changes.
Okay, and the other question is this going to affect at all the town's standing with the state in terms of the state's push for shared services and more intermunicipal agreements? And, that whole thing that's been going on the last few years.
It certainly won't help us. It certainly won't help us. It was one thing that we thought was working well. Obviously, the village didn't feel that way. So we'll find other ways to cooperate with the village. We do so with the highway department. We'll find other ways to work with Nelsonville, Cold Spring, all of us together.
Okay. All right, thanks.
That letter you're referring to was in our record for tonight here. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Can I just confirm that our October meeting will be in person or on?
The October meeting will be in this room in person, yes.
And that
Thank you.
zoning board meeting is only via Zoom on Monday the 14th. It is not going to take place here.
That's the same at the planning board, staying in the Zoom as well for right now.
Same as conservation, so.
We're just stubborn. All right. If that's it from the audience, we're going to move it to approval of vouchers. Vacancies, we have 0, so hooray for that. Approval of vouchers, general.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Highway.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Continental Village Park District.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Continental Village Water District.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, I'll take it, Judy. Motion. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for coming out.